Hi there, this is Kendall Arrington, and I'm here with the dynamic duo Jerry Fifield and Tina Wills, chatting about their upcoming webinar, Designing Effective Sediment Containment Systems. So, Jerry and Tina, how long have you been working with sediment containment systems?
Oh my goodness, probably as long as I've been involved with sediment erosion control and the design aspect of it. I sort of introduced Tina to the whole concept because what some people view as being a sed pond or sed basin, we're calling it sediment containment systems, and they're always going to be evident on all construction sites. So I would say a good 20, 25 years.
And has anything changed in sediment containment systems over that last 25 years?
The changes are slow in coming around. It took a long time for people to realize that sed basins or sediment containment systems are one of the best ways of removing sediment from runoff waters that come off a disturbed area, like a construction site. As far as that goes, it can even be an agricultural site or a highway project. And they're beginning to realize that it's a very easy way of trying to knock down the sediments that are in runoff waters, but it took a long time to get to that stage. So I would say it's been a slow progression in many ways.
Now that people have realized that sediment ponds are one of the best tools to reduce sediment in runoff, I'm sure you've seen some good ones and some ugly ones. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when designing sediment containment systems?
Well, Tina's already alluded to it, and that is some people put the sed ponds in, and then they think, okay, we're going to put in our detention pond and make the detention pond functional, and they wipe out the sed pond itself, which is going to be the maximum benefit of reducing sediment from runoff waters. So it's scheduling, it's working together and trying to make sure that the developer can realize that, hey, the pond itself, the sediment basin, can be part of the detention pond. They all have their functions, and to remove the sed pond only after you start getting, say, 75, 80%, and even then, I don't know if total removal would be the answer.
Sounds like there's a lot to consider. One of the questions we're tackling in this course is the EPA's 3,600 cubic feet per acre rule. What's the controversy surrounding this?
Yeah, that's the volume that I was mentioned earlier that is being often touted as being a specification. 3,600 cubic feet per acre was originally proposed by the Environmental Protection Agency back in 1992. And Tina and I have done some research on it, and apparently that number was touted as being the amount of runoff that would occur due to a 3-inch precipitation event and capturing 1 inch of runoff. Now listen to those words, 3 inches of precipitation capturing 1 inch of runoff. That would be saying essentially that if you're only capturing 1 inch of runoff with that 3 inches of precipitation, 2 inches of rainfall is infiltrated into the ground. There's only one set of conditions that I'm aware of that's going to hold true, and that would be if you had only sandy soils. Well, the entire nation is not built out of pure sandy soils. We've got clays, we've got loams, we've got sure some sands, but we have a variety of soils all over the place that far exceeds, and runoff, excuse me, will far exceed the 1 inch of runoff that's been proposed back in '92 by the Environmental Protection Agency.
It sounds like we'll be covering lots of real-world applications. Speaking of such, you always have some great case studies and pictures in your webinars. What can we expect this time? The good, the bad, and the ugly?
Oh yeah, that one comes in there all the time, and we wish, and this is an interesting question you're putting in there because we get asked all the time, why don't we show the good pictures? They're hard to find. They're really hard to find. And sometimes you get the good picture, but it's an idealized condition. With sed ponds, when is the good picture going to be up there? Is it when you have 100% containment and you have a retention essentially facility? Or should we be interested to see what happens when water goes over a spillway? To me personally, I'd like to see what happens when we can try to clean up the water that discharges over the spillway after, say, we've used a polymer or some type of flocculation mechanism in there. That to me would be the good parts, but surprisingly, those are really hard to find. And Tina, you've seen some other ones. I know I haven't seen any of them where the water discharges out of a pond. It's usually nice and brown and ugly when it happens.
Yeah, I think the only photographs we really have when we have a pond that's actually has a discharge that has extremely clean water is when we make use of a flocculant with it, because I know we do have a great example of that we had worked on. But sometimes with our photographs, it may not necessarily be a completely bad photo. It may be that the photo actually does have a lot of good in it, but what comes with the good, it will oftentimes come with some bad as well, and it really is hard to find that ideal situation where you have that perfect photograph.
That makes sense. So Jerry and Tina, why should a designer or a reviewer take this course?
If you want to be accountable for what you're putting down on a piece of paper, if you want to be accountable to the state for their rules and regulations, if you want to be accountable to the Environmental Protection Agency that demonstrates you're doing the best you possibly can to protect the environment from runoff that leaves your site, that's what this course will help demonstrate. And fix it so that you can feel comfortable that you've done the best job possible when you submitted in the plans and all the details that you need for indeed the pond, sediment pond, to be the most effective for the site and the conditions you have for that site.
Yeah, basically, as Jerry said, it involves all that, and it goes into a lot more depth for a designer, a reviewer, to have that better understanding of what should be done to create a sediment containment system or a sediment pond or a sediment basin, that it is absolutely more than just having this number that is dictated to you by the EPA, that you need to put some thought, you need to put some effort into it, and hopefully what we do in the program is give you those tools so that you can have that understanding to create those ponds that are going to be as effective as you possibly can make them for the site that you are working at.
Thanks, Jerry and Tina. Well, that's all we have time for today. You can learn more or sign up for the live and on-demand Designing Effective Sediment Containment Systems webinar at forsteruniversity.net. See you next time.